We also hear a lot more about UBI or basic income in relation with AI and job automation. What is your view on AI automation, and how do you think this will change or maybe even accelerate the coming of basic income?
Well, I've written a book called The Corruption of Capitalism, in which I argue that we don't have a free market, we have a system of rentier capitalism, where more and more of the income is going to the owners of property, physical property, financial property, and intellectual property. And AI is ultimately a form of property. It's generating a whole lot of intellectual property rights, rentier incomes flowing to the plutocrats, to the multi-billionaires. And I personally don't think it's going to remove all work. What we've seen in the course of the electronics revolutions that have been going on now for 30 years, don't forget, is in actual fact there are more jobs than at any time in history. There are more jobs today than at any time in history. And yet the technology is advanced much more than at any time in history. So I don't think that it's suddenly going to remove everything, but I do think that it is increasing inequality dramatically. And it is the first technological revolution which is reducing labor but increasing work. It's a very difficult way of explaining it. But for example, every time you and I open our computer, we are doing work for the technology company. They're making profit. Every time you and I go on our computers, they're making millions from our work. I have to do far more work than I used to, probably do 60 hours a week, and I'm getting on a bit, as you were. But we're doing more work. But most of that work is unpaid. And more of the income is going to the owners of AI and so on. I had a meeting with Sam Altman in 2016, and he asked me about basic income. And he is the inventor of ChatGPT, as you know, and he has become a multi-billionaire. And he told me that he was convinced by basic income because he thought AI would result in joblessness. I think his prediction is not quite right, but I'm quite happy that people like him are supporting basic income. Sometimes my friends on the left say, here, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people are supporting basic income. It must be wrong. This is ridiculous. The Romans liked to build straight roads. Mussolini liked to build straight roads. Just because Mussolini built straight roads, should I not like straight roads? This is ridiculous, okay? It's a stupid argument. But they argue that from their point of view, the inequalities and they think labor displacement will be that people can't afford to buy the goods produced by AI. And I'm happy to hear them say that because they will support a basic income. And I support basic income for other reasons, for emancipation, for justice, for security, for freedom. But the fact is that quite a lot of these characters now support a basic income. And I think that makes it even more essential for the left, the broad left defined, the Greens, the left in general, should take up the challenge. Because one of the arguments against giving a basic income is that there would be a flight of capital, that the rich would leave the country because somebody's got to pay for it, and they would leave the country. But that's not the case. If you designed it well, then you could provide basic income. It would improve the economic system. It would give people security and freedom and all the things we're talking about. And actually, the plutocrats would accept it. It's a win-win situation. And we must realize that it's the way it's designed, it's the way it's combined with other policies that is the real challenge. And that, I think, is where we are today. But I've been asked to give talks in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and so on. And I've found it surprisingly easy to persuade them, to the very wealthy people, billionaires, not the sort of people that I normally meet or mix with, but they understand it. And therefore I say to my friends on the left, wake up, wake up, wake up. Because out there in the precariat, they're living in chronic insecurity and misery, and suicide rates are going up. Deaths of despair are going up. Morbidity is going up. Early deaths. Criminality is going up because out of desperation. Why? Because people are insecure. And I'm not going to condemn people or support them for doing petty crimes or whatever, but these are realities. If I was in those circumstances, I am sure I would behave just as badly, if you like. And we must be humble. We must show empathy. And you know, the election in your country is classic situation where there's muddle in the political sphere, and we need to get out of that muddle. I'm all in favor of joblessness. I'm all in favor of joblessness. I think I would like a politician to stand up and say, my policies are going to reduce the number of jobs by 10%. Reduce jobs. Because what it would mean is that we would be able to spend more time on the work that we really want to do. No man goes through life wishing he had spent less time looking after his children. No man goes through life wishing he'd spent less time looking after his dying mother. Okay? But there are a hell of a lot of men who go through life wishing they'd spent less time in the office. That's a way of putting it, right? So, I mean, I'm not afraid of joblessness, because I think we have to realize that, throughout history, the past 3,000 years, the majority of people were never in jobs. They did work around the home, they did work in their fields, they did work, whatever it was, and they did commoning together, sharing activities, etc., building their communities, and they weren't in jobs. Okay? Well, only in the last 200 years have jobs been regarded as something up here to be put on a pedestal. So I think we are in a revolutionary moment, in the sense that we need a new vocabulary and new images, new visions that are perfectly realistic. No, not science fiction or anything like that. They're perfectly realistic. And we have to move in that direction, And that includes saying that jobs are not that important, as long as we have opportunity to do work that we want to do and leisure that we could usefully do, and we have income security.